Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, Chairman of the National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago, Gerald Ramdeen, has defended his board's decision to increase natural gas prices for light industrial consumers from US $3 to US $5 per 1 million British thermal units of gas. The price of gas to local light industrial consumers was increased in January 2026. Mr. Ramdeen maintained that the decision was driven by the need to safeguard the company's core assets and ensure the sustainability of its operations. Wasn't UPNM using those same types of excuses and narratives while they were in government for the past 10 years? And yet the UNC was saying, we cannot be placing the burden upon the backs of the citizens. You cannot continue to make the cost of living skyrocket, the prices of goods and services skyrocket. How it is, have we forgotten that? How? I just don't get it. My response, the Kamla Persad-Bissessar government should adopt the Trump administration's capitalist type of policies, which include lower taxes and less regulations, instead of implementing PNM's leftist and socialist taxes, fees, along with increased prices of fuel. Up to last year, the entire UNC online activist population would have acknowledged the fact that any type of increase in fuel, electricity, or duties result in significant rise in the cost of goods and services in Trinidad and Tobago. If all my close allies online would have loved my comments last year, but because UNC is in office now, because we're in charge now, they oppose me. They oppose me, or they completely remain silent. I said, stop placing the financial burden upon the backs of citizens, Madam Prime Minister. That's the thing about it. I want the UNC to win again in 2030. It's not like I don't want that to happen. But you cannot continue to make these kind of significant errors, which overshadows the amount of good that you are doing, Prime Minister Kamla. Especially standing with our most important ally, the United States of America, under the Trump administration. I continue to commend you for that. But you're overshadowing your good with these mistakes that you're making. Don't go anywhere. More local, regional, and international news up next.
The pipeline system that NGC operates, which is our greatest asset, requires maintenance and upkeep. NGC requires a tariff to do the business. And that takes me to a very important point. The administrative cost to run the NGC when we entered into office was $1.7 billion. 1.7 billion TT dollars to run the NGC per year.
Mr. Ramdeen said the decision has already benefited operations at NGC.
We've cut that expense by $800 million. And that is why we've taken these hard decisions now that will resound to the benefit of the citizens of this country, because at the end of the day, we must understand the NGC's sole shareholder is Corporation Sole, which translates into the citizens of the country.
CARICOM cannot function as an organization for sitting governments while opposition voices and ordinary citizens are denied recourse. This is according to Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar as she chastised the regional body for failing to acknowledge or respond to a letter she wrote to the Secretariat in 2022 while she was opposition leader. Recalling that the letter stemmed from the October 2022 so-called arrest of a TNT citizen from another CARICOM state. Mrs. Persad-Bissessar said the unresolved abduction remains a stain on the region's integrity and a signal that CARICOM may be prioritizing governments' affiliations with actual parties like the PNM over the people it serves. I add on that part with the PNM. She said governments. But we all know it's not just governments. Political parties, because they are not aligning themselves with the UNC government. So it's more about political parties than government. But the Prime Minister, let me make it clear again, said government. My response, if Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar wasn't adopting PNM's socialist taxes, fines, and fees, she would have gone down in history as the greatest leader we ever had in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm telling you, A lot of the things that she does makes me very proud, and then there are other things that she's doing, like the taxes and the fees and the fines and so forth, that disappoints me greatly. Leaders like President Irfan Ali and even Andrew Holness should become more bold in their support for democracy and America's fight against narco-terrorism in the Caribbean region. Speaking about regional news up next.
So I say to CARICOM, that response, non-response, it may be the result of poor management, lax accountability, or most concerning, that one ceases to be recognized by the Secretariat as a member citizen of CARICOM when not in government. And so I want to reaffirm that the CARICOM should be the voice for all, not just for the governing parties, not just for those in the Caribbean who form government parties. And so I'd ask you, we have to chart a way forward.
The Prime Minister also noted that alleged cross-border political meddling has created deep fractures within the community.
We cannot then expect that when we come together that we must hug up each other. When in the last election gone, you sent your missives, you sent your people from your party to openly campaign against another political party. I'm sorry I have to share this, but it hurt me a lot when I saw what transpired within the last set of elections in the CARICOM. So CARICOM governments, if we are to hug up each other and cooperate, it cannot be that last week you sent your person down to St. Vincent or to Jamaica or to wherever, or to Guyana. You sent your political persons, not technocrats. You sent them down to campaign.
Prime Minister Dr. Godwin Friday of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines delivered his inaugural address last evening at the 50th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, in St. Kitts. In his address, Prime Minister Friday highlighted what he described as the slow pace of some aspects of CARICOM's work, but affirmed his commitment to working collaboratively with fellow regional leaders to advance the community's goals. You see, all of these rest of other leaders just want to be very diplomatic in their statements instead of taking a firm stance. Dr. Friday said that CARICOM continues to serve with purpose and stressed the need for greater involvement of the people of the region in its planning and decision-making processes. Now, of course, what he said there is correct, people. But you see, you can't be yea and nay at the same time. You have to be on one side, people. You cannot just stay mutual when there are a lot of serious issues taking place in our region. And the right side to stand with right now is on the conservative American side.
But I hope, being new on the stage, I am unfettered by the trials and the frustrations of the past, and might bring some small insight or added motivation that might help us to move forward. It seems to me that any serious consideration of the subject of regional integration and CARICOM's place in it begins with the familiar lament about the agonizingly slow pace of forward movement and the elusiveness of unity and collective action, especially in international affairs.
Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley declined to comment on remarks made by Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar, who used to address at Tuesday's 50th CARICOM Heads of Government meeting to sharply criticize the regional bloc, and she was 100% justified in doing so. The Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, my Prime Minister, of course. Responding to questions, Mottley said, "Meetings now start. I don't talk in advance." The Prime Minister said that any differences between both leaders will be settled behind closed doors, and that's the right way to do it. That's one thing. We must respect Mia Mottley for doing that. Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar and Mia Mottley embraced each other following a meeting with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and other CARICOM heads in St. Kitts yesterday evening.
I wanted to know if you would be willing to share your thoughts on Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar's speech yesterday.
No, because I'm going to a meeting.
Would you be willing to speak with us sometime later?
I'm not sure.
Do you think that her...
Then, you know, so don't try anymore.
We will look out for an opportunity to speak with you a little later.
Yeah, the meetings now start. I don't talk in advance of meetings.
All right, thank you so much, Prime Minister.
All right, take care. All the best. All right, Simon. All the two Simons.
All right.
All right, thanks, sir.
Not a problem.
I don't talk in advance of meetings.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness of Jamaica has signaled a pivot in Jamaica's diplomatic stance towards Cuba, calling for a principled realism that balances traditional regional solidarity, standing with each other, with a demand for democratic reform and open market transitions. Holness also warned that the growing humanitarian crisis in the Spanish-speaking nation could develop into a regional problem, pointing to a possible immigration threat. My response: from what I'm noticing, Jamaica's Prime Minister also leans on the conservative side of politics, just like Kamla Persad-Bissessar. They value democracy, and I'm beginning to like him a lot more because of that. I'm beginning to really understand why probably Jamaicans gave him a third consecutive term, or even though I do believe that he performed in a very mediocre way for the past 10 years. I said, but he's attempting to remain a bit more diplomatic when making his public statements. And he doesn't want to publicly align himself with the United States of America. I said, don't be afraid, sir. Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, don't be afraid to stand up on the right side. We live in a time when we must choose good over evil, even if it isn't the most popular thing to do, because right about now, most of the Caribbean leaders are standing up with communism. Prime Minister Andrew Holness of Jamaica boldly stand up for Western civilization values and democracy. All Caribbean leaders should demand that the communists in Venezuela and Cuba relinquish their power so that the people of those respective nations can begin to recover, rebuild, and experience prosperity again. Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources Jomo Campbell in the Bahamas says the newly imposed 15% U.S. tariffs on seafood exports and ongoing reports of illegal poaching are posing serious concerns for the Bahamas commercial fishing industry. Definitely so. In a statement issued Tuesday, Campbell said the tariffs represent a direct challenge to one of the country's most vital industries, and confirmed that the government has already engaged international partners through diplomatic and trade channels to safeguard market access for Bahamian fishermen. He also addressed persistent reports of foreign poaching in Bahamian waters, describing unauthorized exploitation of marine resources as a threat to the nation's economy and dignity. It's a sovereign nation. How come the rest of the CARICOM aren't really speaking about that? Right? And who you think would have to protect Bahamas? Not America self. Campbell said enforcement efforts will be strengthened through enhanced maritime surveillance, coordinated regional security efforts, and clear legal consequences for fisheries violations. Campbell emphasized that fishermen are critical contributors to the national economy and assured that protecting their livelihoods and ensuring the long-term sustainability of the industry remain top priorities of the government, the present government. From what I read recently, they're supposed to have elections in Bahamas soon. Major foundation works are currently underway on the Hilton-branded 256-room Georgetown Seafront Resort and Convention Center, a $63 billion Guyanese dollars investment secured under an investment agreement signed in 2025 between Go Investment and the project's international developers. The development represents one of the largest hospitality investments underway in Guyana and will significantly expand the country's tourism and conference capacity. The introduction of a 256-room resort under the Hilton brand, alongside modern convention facilities along the Georgetown seafront, will strengthen Guyana's ability to host large-scale regional and international events, support business tourism, increase visitor arrivals, and generate substantial employment and service sector opportunities. The investment will also stimulate linkages across construction, hospitality, retail, transportation, and other sporting industries, contributing to economic diversification and sustained growth in the non-oil economy. And that's what I admire so much about the Irfan Ali administration. They are using the energy industry as the backbone, but they are investing heavily in the agricultural sector, tourism sector, people. You would have never thought that about Guyana. They are promoting tourism in that country, and that is really wonderful to see. Because you cannot continue to depend on the energy sector the way Trinidad did for decades. And Guyana is learning that, learning from our example. Take the money when you have it and invest it and diversify. International news now. U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee says Iran is a threat to the United States, not just to Israel. And that's what the leftist Democrats fail to either acknowledge or just deny. Many Americans don't think about it because Iran is thousands of miles away from them. But for 48 years, Iran has brought death to America, killed thousands of Americans, and is working to build a global nuclear threat. When people ask, why should we care? I ask, how could we not care? Huckabee went on to say. Already today, Iran's proxies are operating in 12 countries in the Western Hemisphere. This is no longer just a Middle East issue. Iran is a global threat. 100% correct, and I hope President Trump continues to listen and take the advice of Mike Huckabee. Get the job done in Iran the same way you need to finish the job in Cuba and, well, start the job in Cuba and finish the job in Venezuela. Closing off now with the interesting facts segment. Seeing Miley Cyrus back in the iconic blonde wig instantly sent fans into nostalgia mode. Yeah, it was. I saw the picture online. It was nice. It was nice. My nieces and nephew used to watch Hannah Montana as children, and of course I used to watch Disney with them. I was young too. I was like in my late teens, early 20s. And Disney was really nice back then. Adults could have watched Disney. Now it's basically a lot of crap, and of course they're promoting a lot of stuff that they shouldn't. The throwback look is tied to excitement around the upcoming Hannah Montana 20th anniversary celebration, reminding audiences of the Disney Channel era that launched her career. Back then, Disney was truly great, I'm telling you. And as I said before, just like Sesame Street in the 80s and the 90s and so forth, adults could have watched it. Who's going to want to watch Sesame Street now? It's too much, it's too child-focused now, in other words. And the type of things that they're promoting is what children should not even listen to or watch, That's the sad thing about it. They're making it more child-focused, and yet the types of concepts that they're instilling to the minds of children should not be done. While Miley has openly reflected on the impact of playing Hannah Montana over the years, the anniversary buzz has reignited love for the character that defined a generation. For many Americans who grew up watching the show, the return of the wig feels like a full-circle pop culture moment. She was the most popular Disney star back then. Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.